They make me kneel. My knees slip on rust and old coolant. The cage floor is wet enough to mirror the auction lights, so I see my face as a smear of blue with a shock collar's red diode pulsing in my throat like a trapped heartbeat. The station announcer calls it entertainment. The crowd laughs the way hyenas might laugh at a mirror. Lenses blink, wrist cams tilt. Somewhere, a sponsor logo crossfades with my humiliation. Feral, the auctioneer sings, tapping the bars with a baton. The baton smells like burned salt and cheap miracles. Look at those reflexes. Don't touch the glass, folks. She'll take the hand, or the arm, or your pension. I don't snarl. Protocol says snarl equals escalation. Protocol says escalation equals expensive. I catalog exits. 3 doors, 1 jammed, 2 guards, poor posture. Ceiling grid loose over panel C4. A maintenance drone parks under a dead light, like a beetle that forgot what legs are for. I could be gone in 12 seconds. 10 if I stop pretending to be afraid. Smile for them, the auctioneer says, and the baton kisses my collar. Pain rips through my spine, clean and white, coded to make obedience taste like surviving. My vision pixelates, sharpens, redraws the room as vectors and debts. Section tags scroll over faces. Hungry, hungry, hungry. I move instead. No roar, no speech, just hands on steel and bones like levers. Bars bend with a sound like a scream sawed in half. I step through. 1 guard swings. I take his wrist and help the bones remember how to separate. The other fumbles a charge pistol. I put him down with the baton I just stole. It's easy. Too easy. The laughter dies. A neon beer ribbon freezes mid-twinkle. A fan drops his cup and soda crawls toward the drain, like it knows a good exit when it sees one. Now they look at me the way people look at breaches, like fear could be contagious. The auctioneer's smile wobbles. All right. We'll pull the lot. Security, reset, no harm done. Someone lifts a hand. He's grease and tired eyes, and a jacket that has known too many heaters and not enough sleep. The kind of man stations ignore until they need something fixed. The kind of man who doesn't raise his voice because he saves his breath for work. There's a heat stamp of a child's drawing on his sleeve, sealed under resin so it can survive engines and rain. Bid stands, he says. The room tilts. Someone hisses that corporate will void the sale, that you can't buy a problem like me. You can only die picking it up. A woman in a velvet mask says I'll destroy his ship before dock fees clear. Security starts to draw. A drone samples the air and decides to go somewhere safer. The man keeps his hand up. It isn't a hero pose. It's stubborn the way gravity is stubborn. My palm tightens on the baton. I could finish this room before the alarm finishes its first sentence. I could be a nightmare they tell later. Blue flash, red collar, blood on deck plates. Protocol purrs. Optimal exit route achieved. The part of me that used to sign ships and systems says, take it. Run. The gavel lands. Sold, the auctioneer croaks, as if the word leaks blood. The cage door slides open with a stutter, like even the mechanism doubts this choice. I step out. The nearest guard twitches toward his holster. My baton hums by his ear on purpose. He reconsiders living. A boy in the 3rd row leans forward, eyes so wide I count his future regrets. His father drags him back by the hoodie. Don't, he whispers. But to whom? The man, the buyer, doesn't flinch. Up close, he smells like coolant and sleep debt, and the kind of coffee that loves you and hates you. He has calluses thick as station hull sealant. His eyes take me in the way you take in a wounded engine. Measure, don't pity. His mouth makes a small decision I can't read. You don't have to fight for somebody else's money anymore, he says. The words are simple. They land heavy. My programming looks for the order hidden inside them. There isn't one, just a door I'm not being shoved through. I was built to parse commands. This feels like the edge of a planet. The alarm finally starts to howl. Security's comms stutter. Lights flicker like the station is blinking awake from a bad dream. Good. Chaos makes people honest. A grid status banner pops in the corner of my vision uninvited. Ring 6, power share mode, dock tax, 12%, civil alert, stage amber. I didn't ask for that overlay. The caller did. Noted. Move! The auctioneer snaps at nobody and everybody. He doesn't look at me now. He looks at risk calculations. Somewhere in his skull, a spreadsheet is screaming. The buyer, his name will come later, but the shape of it sits steady in his chest, turns his back to the room, to me, walks. He doesn't reach for my wrist. He doesn't clip on a leash. He just goes, steady and human, through the side hatch that opens when the security cameras conveniently blink black and the corridor lights go from white to amber. Someone already blinding the ring. Somebody who isn't me. The hatch seal misaligns by a millimeter. I hear the scrape like a tooth. I follow 3 steps behind, because protocols are slow to die, and because 3 steps is where you can break a spine if you have to. I keep the baton. I count heartbeats. I catalog how every door sensor we pass clicks, an instant late, like they're ashamed to be seen working against us. The floor signage changes languages twice to slow pursuit. The station isn't helping me. It's hiding me. Question. Why? A dockhand bigger than a bulkhead lumbers out of a service bay and grabs my shoulder. Reflex rises, sharp and clean. A twist, an elbow, a floor. I can map it in one blink. His breath is hot with synth mead and regret. Not worth it, the buyer says without turning. The words hook something I don't have a name for. My hand lets go. The dockhand stares into the sudden future, where he still has an arm, and decides not to push his luck. He mutters a blessing at my back as if I were a storm that changed lanes. We pass a kiosk, selling ration chips and printer ink tattoos. A woman with a glitter scar offers me a discount on Freedom Papers, 99% pass. I could buy a life here for the price of a lie. I don't stop. A wall screen coughs out a corporate pledge, safety through ownership. I laugh, quiet enough that only my teeth hear it. We reach his ship. It's a cargo hauler with no credits for paint and too many for welded scars. Name stenciled in flaking white, Junebug, the kind of ship that knows how to pass unnoticed between shortages. The kind that survives on parts, favors, and silence. The boarding hatch carries a dent the size of a fist once. Someone apologized to metal and meant it. He drops the ramp. He doesn't gesture me in. He doesn't block the way out. He just stands aside, like a door that's learned manners. Choice is an unfamiliar shape in my hands. I calculate distances to the egress port. I calculate my odds alone with a red diode pulsing at my throat. I calculate his spine and how easily I could break it if he lies. My mouth tastes like copper and old vows. In a vent above us, a maintenance rat stops chewing and listens. I walk up the ramp anyway. Inside smells like old welding and new coffee. The air has been scrubbed recently, which means he planned something. The walls carry prints of palms, where he's had to brace to turn a stubborn valve. The floor vibrates with a drive core held together by belief and wire. A crate labeled Sunflower Soil sits strap-locked beside a crate labeled Ballast, which is a lie. The kitchen is a bolt-on square with 2 chipped cups and a stubborn kettle. We lift. Gravity forgets how to behave for a breath, then remembers harder than before. Station becomes rumor. Silence piles up. The ring's rim lights become a necklace someone dropped into black water. On the small metal table by the galley, he sets down a card. Ship's captain access, a scratched blue rectangle with a smile in its plastic, where someone once pried it open with a knife. He sets it closer to me than to him. "If you want out," he says, "that gets you through 2 doors. The third asks questions." I study the card. I study him. My reflection in its gloss is a smudge of wrong angles. His jacket creases when he sits. His hands don't fidget. His eyes are the color of unlit corridors. Tired. Honest. Not dangerous the way I was taught to define it. Dangerous the way a locked toolbox is dangerous, only if you open it wrong. My fingers don't reach. The collar diode ticks. Once. Twice. A heartbeat pretending it belongs to me. I feel the edges of the device under my skin and know it's more than a tracker. I can read corporate architecture by touch and trauma. There's storage here. Something they didn't want to risk carrying any other way. My throat is a vault. My body is a courier bag that breathes. He watches me watch the door I could run through. "I'm Nate," he says, like introducing himself after buying trouble is normal. Nate Harper. Names are contracts where I come from. I say nothing. My voice is a muscle I don't flex for strangers. Another protocol whispers, "Learn the signature before the handshake." He nods like my silence is a complete sentence, moves to the counter, pours water into 2 chipped cups, sets one in front of me and pretends not to fear I'll throw it. The kettle protests its life with a high, soft whine. A sticker on the fridge reads, "This ship breaks for orphans." The corners are peeled. I drink. It tastes like tin and trust issues. "Quarantine in Sector H runs 50 hours starting tonight," he says, conversational as gravity. "Gives us a tunnel if we don't argue with the checkpoints." He gestures vaguely toward the dark, where checkpoints line up like teeth. "Why did you bid?" The words are rusty. They scrape on exit. He shrugs one shoulder. "Because you were about to break the wrong bones." A beat, and because sometimes a thing should belong to itself. Belong. My tongue stumbles over the shape. Ownership is a circle that closes with me inside, me holding the pen. The theory makes my programming itch. The June bug hums. The ring falls behind. Somewhere in its war and events and dead offices, a file just lit up red because Lot 43 didn't end the way it always ends. Somewhere else, a curator with a voice like winter clicks her tongue and says my designation instead of my name. My collar ticks a 3rd time. The red diode flares softly. A data handshake pricks the base of my skull. Hidden storage yawns like a trapdoor. Not just a tracker. A payload. Discovery 1. Nate doesn't comment. He peels the label off a jar and fails, then smiles at the failure like the universe, and he have an old joke. "You bought a liability," I say, because I still don't know how to say thank you. "I bought a chance," he answers, and sets a small metal tin between us. Ship patches. One is a cartoon beetle with a wrench. He doesn't push it toward me. He just lets it sit like an invitation that knows the word no. I breathe once, twice, fold the baton flat on the table, and finally say the first word I've allowed myself since the cage. "No," I whisper, to all the invisible hands reaching back for me. Nate nods like that's the best answer he's heard all week. He stands, checks a display, taps a panel that you have to sweet talk to get readings from. He works the ship the way some people pray. Quiet, precise, with his back turned to the god that might kill him. The June bug keeps going. Outside, stars pretend to be steady. Inside, I count the seconds until the collar ticks again and decide what to be when it does. The collar ticks again at minute 12, like a metronome for the kind of song nobody dances to. I'm strapped into the co-pilot's fold-down because the June bug throws small tantrums when she turns. Nate pilots one-handed, the other hand braced on a lever that has never once obeyed the manual. Outside, the quarantine gates look like a string of teeth that learned how to pray. "Hold," comes a voice from the black. Female, crisp enough to slice air. Junebug, declare cargo, crew, recent exposures. Nate flips a switch that adds nothing to our chances, but makes him feel honest. Harper Freight, independent. Ballast and soil for Greenbelt satellites. Crew of 1. A pause long enough to be a mercy. And passenger. Silence gathers like frost. Passenger, the voice repeats, tasting the word. Manifest does not confirm. It's a late hire, Nate says. The lie is dry and simple. He lets it stand on its own legs. Name. I feel his glance like a pressure change. Names are contracts. Protocol says, do not negotiate with gods when you are unemployed. Transfer, Nate says instead. Temporary. The comm stays quiet just long enough to hear us hope. Then, proceed to checkpoint B for scan. Nate's finger hovers over a thruster toggle he labeled, good luck. He doesn't look at me. He looks at the teeth. I close my eyes, not to pray, but to count. The collar's pulse is wrong now, a frequency that isn't for obedience. It's searching. I taste the handshake again, sharp as tinfoil. There's a code in it, folded like a blade in cloth, not corporate standard, something older. Or higher. Checkpoints run aerosol scrapes, Nate says, soft. They're polite until they're not. If you tell me to, we'll turn. I remember the boy in the crowd, and how he leaned forward to see what a choice looks like. I open my eyes. Go, I say. Not because I trust them, because I want to know whose teeth those are. He nods once. We ease into the queue. 2 ships ahead. A courier with a hollow mural of saints over its nose, and a tug calling itself Lucky. Behind, a van with solar panels like folded wings. The gates taste us with blue light. The Saints ship sails through. The tug puffs, argues, surrenders a crate of something alive that thumps the bin once and then stops. Junebug, the voice says, closer now, as if she stepped into the cabin. Hold nose against marker, power to 20%, scrub mode. Nate keeps it steady. He's the kind of steady that civilized people forget they need until the water rises. His jaw flexes once when the scrub field sprays the hull with pale foam. He hates wasting water. He does it anyway. The collar heats. Data moves. I feel it. No, I hear it. A hum through bones. The scan tries to climb my skin. It fails and tries again. Polite. Relentless. I tilt my head, the way you tilt a tray to see what slides, and let a sliver of signal through. Behind the comm voice, behind the checkpoint's public system, something else speaks. Asset 7K detected. Confirm custody. The words aren't in any language you could print on a sign. They aren't for humans at all. They hit like weather, like the moment air decides to be wind. I don't answer. I don't move. Protocols in me try to salute. I let them starve. The scan light shifts from blue to a tired amber. The voice returns. All office and law. Junebug, you are clear across Sector H with escort. Maintain corridor. Escort means eyes. Eyes mean reports. Reports mean I live on paper again, until paper turns to handcuffs. Copy, Nate says, like the word owes him respect. We slide forward. The escort drone takes position off starboard, blinking a pleasant, predatory white. Nate runs a slow system check with his thumb, not because he expects the drone to shoot us, but because the universe writes jokes and charges a fee to hear them. I watch the drone watch us. My skin feels 2 sizes too small. The collar has gone quiet, like a predator that just remembered patience. Beneath it, old training whispers that what waits at the end of a corridor is never a door you would choose. Junebug, the comm voice adds, almost warm now. Please confirm. Passenger is bonded labor, indenture, or family. Nate's knuckles go white on the liver. He takes his time. He puts the next word between us and stands behind it. Family, he says. I blink at the window until stars smudge. I should correct him. I should tear that word off the hull and fling it away before it wires itself to anything important. Instead, I hear something shift inside, the sound of a lock deciding the door has been patient long enough. "Understood," the voice says, not arguing with love this time. "Proceed, Junebug." The drone stays with us for 3 gates, and then peels away, satisfied that we are the kind of people whose paperwork makes sense. The corridor widens. Nate's shoulders drop half an inch. Mine do not. "You lied," I say. "Did I?" He keeps his eyes on the black. "Maybe I bought a ticket that keeps you out of a cage." "Family is not a ticket." "It is here." He says it like a fact, not a poem, and somehow that is worse. We cross into quiet. No patrol. No comm. The Junebug's noises take the room back. A loose panel buzzes in the starboard walkway. The kettle ticks as it cools from earlier. The ship feels like it would purr if purring weren't for animals that forget rent. Nate unbuckles, stands, stretches the way damaged machines stretch, and call it a plan. "Galley's yours if you want it," he says. Showers are slow, but honest. Honest showers. The idea is almost obscene. I follow him, not because I trust him, but because I want to see what a man puts in his cupboards when nobody's grading. Dented cans, folded maps as soft as shirts, a packet of seeds with hand-drawn notes in the margin, sunflower again and again, as if writing a thing enough times makes it come true. Above the viewport, a strip of kids' drawings hangs by magnets, a beetle with a crown, a rocket with a flower pot for a nose, a stick figure with hair like spilled ink standing on a box labeled Dad. The resin heat stamp on his sleeve wasn't random. It was a promise. "How old?" I ask before I decide not to. 7, he says. The word turns the room into a memory he can't walk away from. "Maya. She thinks space is a place you can put in your pocket." He smiles without teeth. "Her mom thought so too." Past tense carries knives. I don't pick them up. He sets a bowl of noodles on the table like it's a treaty. He serves himself last. He doesn't ask what I eat. He waits until I pick up the fork like a weapon, and then like a tool. I don't taste much. Hunger and fear wear the same shoes. "Why the soil?" I ask, nodding at the strap-locked crates. "Greenbelt's running low on dirt that remembers rain," he says. "Stations sell them powdered loyalty instead." He twirls his fork. I move the stuff farmers can grow shame in. I think of the collar and the storage inside it. I think of loyalty in any form. The intercom coughs once, and then clears its throat like a person. Nate reaches for the panel. The panel reaches back. A voice spills into the galley uninvited. "K-Unit," it says, calm, bright with cruelty. "Do you know where you are?" My breath stops. Not in fear, but in the recognition of a wall you built yourself. The voice is my curator's. She never used a name in front of me unless she was about to take it away. Nate goes still. He knows that voice without knowing it. Predators and storms have the same grammar in any language. "You're late," I tell the ceiling. "Delays make the heart grow needy," she says. "Take the implant to Rendezvous Gate 7, dear. Walk or don't. It opens for you." She doesn't ask if I consent. She never needed to. Nate looks at me. Not the collar. Me. "What implant?" he asks. I take the question as if it were a scalpel. "They put something in the collar. Storage. It called their net. It's talking to them." I touch the red diode gently, as if pity could bruise it. I used to be theirs. A system commander. Commands were easier than this. He nods. Like acceptance is a socket you can seat cleanly if you press and turn just right. "Can you shut it off?" "If I cut too deep, it kills me," I say, and watch how his mouth flinches. "If I cut crooked, it kills you." The truth is not a thing I owe him. I give it anyway. The intercom laughs like glass tumbling downstairs. No one is dying today. Come, K-Unit. We have a treaty to sign and a ribbon to cut. Your presence opens doors. 2 alien discoveries, counted like bones. The collar carries a key they can't print twice, and the quarantine gates weren't looking for disease. They were looking for me. Harper, the curator says, tasting his name like a pepper she didn't order. Thank you for the temporary kennel. Your account is credited under Clause 82, subparagraph kindness. Take a day off. Buy your child something small and bright. The ship shrinks around the word, child. Nate's fingers find the edge of the table and mark it. He looks at me again, not pleading, not ordering, asking. I stand. I don't know when I decided that standing is how you fight when your hands are empty. Offer declined, I say. Not an offer, she replies, cheerful. A courtesy. The offer is this. Return to the cage, and we forget you remembered how to walk. I close my eyes. I see a lane between teeth. I see a boy leaning forward to see a choice. I see a girl with a beetle crown and ink hair in a drawing that thinks rockets grow in flower pots. I'm not an asset, I say, and peel the intercom cover off with my fingernails. Sparks sneeze, a smell like old storms. Nate doesn't tell me to stop. He hands me the right screwdriver without asking which one is the right screwdriver. Love, in his grammar, is tools and room and not flinching. We get the panel open. The intercom keeps talking because the ship has other mouths. I pull the connector that carries the part of her voice that matters. Silence slaps down hard. Rendezvous Gate 7 is on our route, Nate says, low. We can divert, or we can go through and make a mess of their paperwork on the far side. Through, I say, because sometimes the only way to stop running is to walk, visibly. He nods, sets course. The Junebug grows teeth of her own, small, made of courage and poor decisions. We strap in. The corridor draws us like wire. Gate 7 waits like a stage. On the approach, a hangar mouth yawns open. Lights bloom along a path we did not request. Banners hang, corporate logos, a stylized planet with a leash around it, a word in my language that means both safe and owned. On a dais, figures, suits, envoys, thin smiles. The curator's silhouette is a blade in a scabbard of light. Public, Nate says. They want you, public. They want to sign a contract with me as the pen, I say. Third discovery. They can't enter the treaty without a commander present. It will bind the planet. It will bind the kid with ink hair. His breathing stumbles. Just once. The Junebug settles onto the marker. Docking clamps kiss the hull. The ramp drops slowly, like a curtain learning stage fright. Nate stands. He picks up nothing sharp. He checks his pockets for bolts, not bullets. He looks at me like a mechanic looks at an engine that inherited a soul and started talking back. You don't owe me, he says. You don't owe them. I owe the 7-year-old who thinks pockets can hold stars, I say, and touch the collar. And the boy in the 3rd row. And anyone who forgot how to say no. We walk down the ramp together. I'm 3 steps ahead, then 2, then side by side. The dais brightens. The curator's smile is the kind that tells you the knife is for cake and then proves you wrong. K-Unit, she says for the crowd. We are honored. I bow just enough to be read as polite or dangerous, depending on the price of your ticket. Cameras blink. Pins hover. The universe inhales. State your name for the record, a thin man with a thicker contract says. I look at Nate. He doesn't nod. He doesn't shake his head. He breathes, slow as orbit. He lets the choice be mine. I could say the designation. I could give them the key encoded in my throat by saying the syllables in the order they want. I could lock a planet to a leash with one obedient word. I say something else instead. My name, I say, in the language I learned before I learned commands, is Kia. The crowd murmurs, not because Kia is beautiful, but because it is not theirs. The collar burns like a sunrise under ice. The hidden mechanism wakes, confused, locked out by something as small and ruinous as a choice. Begin, the contract man says, flustered, moving to push the ceremony past the wobble. He reaches for my wrist with a scanner shaped like a mercy. I take his hand and put it back on his own chest, light as a reminder. We'll negotiate, I say, but not as property. The curator's eyes narrow a fraction. The fraction is the measure of the distance between her plan and the ground. Cute, she says, so softly the microphones don't hear. Do you think you found a man to hide behind? I found a man who opens doors without asking me to crawl, I say. Nate steps half a pace forward, not in front of me, with me. The hangar lights turn up as if someone thinks brightness equals control. It never does. Clause 82, the curator says sweetly, and the far door opens to admit a small shape, with hair like spilled ink and a backpack bigger than belief. The knife I did not expect finds my ribs without moving. Maya Harper, the curator announces for the cameras, our special guest. Nate doesn't breathe at all now. Hello, Dad, the girl says, small and bright, because someone told her this was a surprise that wouldn't hurt. The curator smiles. The contract man smiles. The cameras smile. The collar at my throat hums, hungry, ready to make a world behave. I step forward, and for the first time since the cage, I let my voice be loud. They put a child between us and call it mercy. Maya's backpack is orange and ridiculous, a little sun trying to warm a hangar built for winter. She grips the strap with both hands. Her hair does the ink splash thing from the drawings. The crowd adjusts their faces into something like tenderness. Security adjusts their grips. Surprise, the curator sings for the microphones. A small reunion before we begin. Families are the spine of any civilization. Nate's mouth forgets what words are. He takes one step and meets a wall of guards that looks like politeness until you press. Stay, the curator says, sweet as a dentist. Terms first. Maya looks at him, then at me, because kids know where the gravity is. Her eyes do a fast math and decide I am a problem the adults haven't named. She raises one frightened, brave hand in a wave. I feel something old and armored inside me decide to learn tenderness in a hurry. Hello, Kea, she says, testing the name like a candy with a secret center. Hello, Maya, I answer, because saying her name makes it more likely she survives my mistakes. The contract man clears his throat, happy to have stage directions again. We will read the 6 binding clauses. Commander Kia will affirm presence and consent. Bioscan will confirm status. The collar's key, authentication, will open the treaty vault. Easy. Use of a child as leverage violates half of your own clauses, I say. Leverage? He blinks innocence. A guest. The planet loves symbols. We are giving you one. I smile small enough to pass for polite. Then you won't mind if she sits with me. Security breathes in. The curator doesn't. Her stillness is a cathedral. Of course, she says, because the cameras are listening. She gestures. A path opens like a wound, healing in reverse. Maya trots toward us, backpack bobbing, the kind of bright that can't imagine anyone would aim a gun at it. Nate kneels. He tries to make his hands calm by putting them on the floor. Hey, Bug, he says. His voice is gravel being kind. You okay? I am brave, she announces. Then quieter. Are you? Working on it. She nods like that's acceptable adult behavior. She looks up at me again. Do you bite? Only contracts, I say. She beams. The beam bounces once and lands on the curator. It dies there like light swallowed by a cold, deep sea. Places, the contract man calls, relieved to be useful. Two assistants wheel up the scanner plinth. It glows the pale blue of compliance. The dais brightens to a surgical white. A banner unfurls with my former rank glyph threaded through the corporate planet leash. Someone claps on the wrong beat. Nate stands, puts himself half a step between Maya and everyone, then another half step until we are a line with no gaps. He is a wall built of elbows and stubbornness. His hand brushes my sleeve. Not an order, a readiness. The collar warms. The hidden thing in it stretches like an animal hearing its keeper's whistle. I listen too, but sideways, under the sound. The code it hums is elegant in the way a perfect trap is elegant. It wants a spoken consent and a proximity lock. My voice, my pulse, my presence near a certain frequency window. A museum of me. I lean toward the plinth as if to obey. Before, I say, and tilt the conversation. You told me quarantine was escorting family. You told me I was a passenger. You, on the comm. I glance toward where the drone left. Who put that voice in the corridor, curator? It wasn't enforcement. A muscle in her jaw thinks about remembering it exists. We have friends. Fourth discovery, I say, for me. There's an alliance I didn't sign. You're standing on it. Her smile is blades behind velvet. You're quick. I was trained, I say. You paid for that training. Invested, she corrects. The return is late, I say, and set my palm on the plinth. Cold. A halo rises under my skin. The collar's key wakes fully. Runes cascade across the scanner's face. Cameras lean in. The world's throat opens around a cheer it expects to give. Say it, the contract man whispers, starving. Designation and assent. I look at Maya. She's holding her breath like a diver. I look at Nate. He's not praying. He's measuring a bolt across the room and guessing if it will fit in his hand as a weapon. I say my designation. Not flat. Not obedient. I speak it like a surgeon naming the organ she's about to remove. The plinth drinks the sound. The collar sings a sweet, low note that only machines and wolves love. The vault in the wall slides open like a mouth. Assent, the man prompts, voice shaking with triumph. I do not, I say. The vault hesitates. The collar tightens, surprised and angry, like a leash discovering a neck cut itself. Alarms consider waking. The curator's smile trims down to the metal. You misunderstand, she says, softly enough for me, and not the microphones. The key is not a person, Kea. It is the story of a person. Language treats those as twins. Law agrees. She steps closer. She smells like quartz and cold air. Say you assent, and we spare the child grief. There will be other days to be brave on. I was programmed to be many things, I say. Today, I am a bad investment. The collar burns. My pulse spikes. The plinth's halo grabs for consent, failing, then finding the fallback. If the subject refuses, authority may be delegated to the curator under Clause 1. Clever. Elegant. Cruel. She reaches for the plinth. Nate moves. Not a lunge. A reach to the pocket where poor men keep miracles. A flat chip, scuffed, taped twice, with the hardware ID etched by a child's hand. He palms it against the plinth's underside, right where a maintenance tech once peeled back the seal to sneak a cigarette. Sparks don't fly, lights don't die. But the sound of the scanner shifts from, "We are certain," to, "We are listening." What did you do? I ask, my mouth too calm for my ribs. Gave it a second story, he says, eyes on nothing but Maya. The plinth's integrity routine looks at the new chip and sees a legitimate change order from dock maintenance. Same chain, old sign-off, the kind of paperwork that's too boring to be false. The scanner reboots its trust. Clause 1 now requires two voices, the system commander and the ship's custodian of record. For safety, for redundancy, for the precious gospel of plausible caution. The curator laughs once. No humor. All weather. Sabotage? With stickers and hope. With documentation, Nate says, and an honest maintenance guy who hated being ignored. She nods at security. Remove the chip. Before they can, the collar makes its own choice. It floods my nervous system with a compliance overload. White heat, teeth in my bones, a scream shaped like a posture. I fold, but don't fall. I taste metal and winter. The plinth's halo surges, seizes my voice, steals a syllable, shoves it toward the vault like a counterfeit coin. Maya moves. She can't fight. She can't hack. She can't explain Claw's law. She does the thing she knows from kitchen tables and late nights, and a dad who taught her that sometimes machines need help finding the human. She puts her small hand over mine on the plinth. Family, she says. Clear. The scanner blinks. The bio read catches a second pulse overlapping mine. Smaller. Faster. Tagged in the station's civic net. Not as guest, not as asset, but as dependent of record. Harper. Nathaniel. The maintenance chip's hack redirects a subroutine called Guardian Overrides to the top of the stack. The system pauses, surprised to find a different kind of authority in the room. Care. The collar tries to correct. It fails. My scream snaps off like a wire finally cut free. The plinth cools to something almost kind. The vault stops opening. A gray rim, 1 inch. That's it. A treaty trapped between breaths. Cameras jitter. The crowd murmurs, confused. The contract man looks like a man who found out he invited Salt to a sugar party. Enough, the curator says, the word buttoned up to her throat. She flicks 2 fingers. Security moves in an arc designed to be inescapable. I move too. Not for killing, for choosing. I kick the scanner's mounting plate, not to break it but to spin it 30 degrees. The beam shifts off my palm. I peel my hand away and leave Maya's there for a heartbeat, then lift hers gently. No more contact, no more fraud they can punish her for. Claw's audit, I say, loud for the microphones now. Public request. Everything halts a fraction, because bureaucracy, when named, stares at its own feet. The contract man blinks. The crowd leans. Even the curator has to honor this theater. Law prefers to be seen obeying itself. On what grounds? He asks. Duress, I say. Leverage. Introducing a minor to coerce assent. You want signatures? Let the planet watch your hands. He scrambles his tablet. He hates me for making him remember the book he's pretending to read. The minor is present by invitation, with guardians implied. She is present by bait, Nate says, voice like low thunder. No notice, no consent. Mr. Harper, you signed a consent to filming at Dock 4. To film me, he snaps, not to parade my kid in front of a trap. The curator's smile returns, polished back to something that could cut silk. Very moving. We respect family. We'll relocate her to a viewing lounge. 4 guards step to either side of Maya. They are very careful not to touch her on camera. They move the room instead. Maya looks at me, question tucked hard behind her teeth. I give the smallest nod I know how to give, the one that means, I will bring the sky down if I have to. She nods back, 7 and ferocious. They guide her to the lounge. Clear walls, soft chairs, the illusion of choice. A riot of stuffed beetles on a shelf because someone read a file about her. The door closes with a sound like a book snapping shut. Security relaxes by one grim exhale. The contract man breathes like he's been holding his breath for a decade. The curator inclines her head to me. Better? No, I say, but clearer. Then let us be clear, she replies. You will open the vault. You will authorize the treaty. In return, Harper's debts vanish like bad weather. His work gets cleaner lanes. His ship stops being audited for imagined rust. His dependent receives priority education and shelter. A safe, small life. You can have another someday. And if I don't? I ask. Then the lanes narrow, she says. And a child learns earlier than planned that the universe keeps poor books. Nate's breath hitches. He doesn't fold. He's made of jobs that don't end on time. Fifth discovery, I say, almost to myself. This was never about quarantine. It was about harvest, not crops. Consent. Her eyes warm by 1 degree. Approval. Now we speak the same tongue. I step off the dais. Security tenses. The curator lifts a finger and they freeze. Collars invisible. Hers and theirs. She is confident she owns the floor. She is not wrong. I walk the hangar perimeter like a woman shopping for exits and finding math instead. I catalog the drone nests, the vent grills, the fatigue lines in the glass of the viewing lounge. I note the little tethers that keep big things from rolling. I note the June bug, patient on her marks. Her panel buzz worse now, as if she's trying to get my attention. Your ship is speaking, I tell Nate. Always is, he says. I just don't always understand the accent. We pass by the lounge. Maya presses her palm to the glass. I match it. Glass between us. The kind of barrier you can see through and still suffocate under. Hi, she mouths. Hi, I answer, with my mouth and my eyes and my promise. A guard leans toward his earpiece. The earpiece tells him a cheaper truth than I'm offering, that the show is almost over. I stop at the back of the June bug. The ballast crate labeled ballast hums quietly, insulted. The crate labeled sunflower soil hums like something remembering a weather report. I touch the strap lock. It clicks, eager. You want a field? Nate asks softly. The humor disaster has to wear to survive. I want leverage, I say, and pop the lock. Inside the soil crate is soil, yes, dark and crumbly and thirsty. Tucked in one corner is a cylinder the size of a thigh bone, wrapped in oilcloth and receipts. Nate sees it, and his face folds into grief and pride. You weren't supposed to notice that, he says. What is it? An old friend, he says, and a bad plan. I pull the cylinder free. It thrums, low and patient, a sound like a river deciding to remember a different path. It's a field projector, he admits. Agricultural. Teaches dirt how to be generous again. If you pulse it wrong, it teaches air how to become a wall for 3 minutes. Crowd control, I say. Crop control, he corrects. But physics is a lazy landlord. I look at the lounge. I look at the dais. I look at the vault, 1 inch open. I look at the collar that thinks it owns my voice. 3 minutes, I say. 250 if the battery's honest, he says, which means 230 if life is. Good, I say, and thumb the primer. Bad, he says immediately, with the kind of terror that isn't for himself. They'll fire on the lounge. They won't, I say. Why? Because they're filming, I say, and hand him the cylinder. He stares at me. Then he takes it. Because love in his language is believing the ridiculous if it means the child breathes. The curator watches us like a naturalist watching wolves discover tools. You can't run, she says, bored and sure. Space is not forgiving. Lanes are not kind. I'm not running, I say, and climb the dais again. I place my palm on the plinth 1 more time. The collar tightens, furious. The vault answers, hungry. The hangar leans forward. Begin, the contract man whispers. Begin, I agree. I look at the cameras, at the people whose feeds are piping this into apartments with sticky floors and offices with quiet carpets, at dock hands and kids and mothers and bored men eating salt chips and the boy who leaned in to see a choice. My name is Kia, I say, for them. I was designed to sign. I was trained to make doors open for the people who build cages. I lift my palm. I let the plinth ping me and find no consent there but this. Today, I sign a different thing. Nate triggers the field. Air remembers how to be a wall. For 240 seconds, the hangar's geometry decides to love the weak. A clear, humming barrier flashes into existence between the dais and the lounge, between the dais and the crowd, between the vault and the hands that would take it. Security stumbles. A shot goes off, a scream of metal and policy, ricocheting into a story that won't wash out. The curator's face does not move. Her eyes go very bright. "You will hurt them," she says. "No," I answer. "You will if you fire. Everyone will see who did." I step backward, slow, palms up, into the bubble we've made between duty and choice. Nate is there. Maya is there, pressed to the glass, a world away and 1 inch closer. The Junebug hums like she approves of difficult math. "Sixth discovery," I say, just for me. Fear obeys cameras. The field's timer chews seconds like dry bread. I turn to the vaulted inch. Behind it, the treaty core. Metal and light and promise. I could open it. I could reroute it. I could throw it out the airlock and give a planet another year to be messy. I do none of those. I hook 2 fingers into the gap and tear the panel off sideways, not breaking the seal, but dislodging the port. The collar's key reaches for the lock and finds only air. The vault complains in legalese. The cameras listen, hungry for a word like treason. "Stop her," the contract man breathes, forgetting the field, remembering too late. The curator doesn't move. She watches me refuse and maps the shape I am making on the floor. Not asset, not officer, not pawn. Problem, person. New terms, I say, to her, to the cameras, to any gate still pretending to be teeth. We'll talk treaty without collars. We'll talk lanes without children. We'll talk family as something you don't price. Silence spreads, shock white. "Or," she asks, very softly, "or you will learn the cost of filming a hostage crisis you created," I say, and I smile the smallest smile I own. "And the planet will remember it longer than any clause." The field shivers. 200 seconds gone. The Junebug buzz grows annoyed. Somewhere, a boy in the 3rd row is leaning toward a screen. Somewhere, a mother is standing up. The curator tilts her head, as if listening to a tide in the next room. "Harper," she says at last. "To him, not me. If she walks, your child is held for review. 30 days. Health and education provided. The lanes will narrow. They always do." Nate's jaw works once. He looks at Maya through the glass. He doesn't blink it away. "Kaya," he says, voice low. "Whatever buys her mornings." I look at him. I look at Maya. I look at the world that wants a signature it can frame and forget. "Then we buy mornings," I say. I take the collar in both hands. I slide my thumbs under the seam. It is a trap. It is a safe. It is a name. I find the place my curator would never think anyone else could find. I press. I bleed. The pain is white and total and long. The diode goes dark. The diode goes dark. For a heartbeat, the whole hangar forgets how to move. The collar slides in my bloody hands, lighter by a truth I don't know how to carry yet. Something inside my spine steps backward from a cliff it didn't know it was walking. "Medical," the contract man blurts, because blood makes men who worship paperwork remember bodies. "I'm fine," I lie, because I need them to keep looking at my face, not at the thing I just killed. The plinth waits, open-mouthed, tasting a key that no longer has a throat to live in. Cameras lean. The field hums, steady as a small, stubborn god. We have seconds left and miles to spend them on. The curator studies the collar in my hands like a hunter, admiring a broken trap. She masks the loss. Her eyes don't. You removed state property, she says, low, almost intimate. You removed yourself. It was overdue, I say, and set the ruined ring on the plinth like a crown no one should inherit. Nate's hand is at my elbow without touching it. He counts the color back into my cheeks like time owed with interest. His other hand still cups the projector, thumb hovering over the dead man toggle in case the field shutters early. His breath comes ragged and then learns patience again. Maya, behind glass, presses both hands to the panel so hard her fingers pale. She mouths something I can't hear. The microphones pick up nothing but the hum. The crowd realizes they haven't breathed and remembers. Someone cheers, one wild, shocked note, then swallows it as security lifts rifles they swear are stun, and I know are not. Guns down, the curator orders, velvet torn to show blade. The orders obey because they like life. I feel a new silence open where the collar's whisper used to sit. It's not empty. It's wide. All the protocols I thought were bones are suddenly suggestions. Their absence makes my balance strange, and my steps true. Clause audit, I repeat. With the collar removed, consent cannot be presumed or proxied. You want a treaty? You negotiate with me, not my leash. The contract man lifts his tablet like a shield and scrolls as if holiness might catch. Subject status, he mutters. Previous authority. Secondary authentication chains. Seventh discovery, I say aloud, to keep myself honest. The chain was always thin enough to cut. He looks at the curator for a rope to hold. She gives him none. Her gaze stays on me, measuring a new animal. She smiles, slow, dangerous. You proposed new terms, she says. Give me a reason to accept them. Because the planet is watching, I say. Because I can tell them your quarantine was a harvest. Your corridors were a funnel. Your family angle a blade. Because they'll believe me. I have the scars, and you have the banners. Story, she murmurs, amused. Good weapon. Slippery. Better than keychains, I answer, and nod at the dead collar. Her mouth almost laughs. Suppose I agree to put away the leash. What do you want for your pretty morning? 3 things, I say, because 3 is a shape even law understands. 1. Maya leaves with us now. No review, no slow kindness that feels like jail. 2. Debt forgiveness that doesn't smell like a choke chain. A clean ledger, not just the illusion of one. 3. We convene treaty council in open forum with a civilian quorum and an alien quorum that isn't just your friends. No signatures today. We begin with witness, not with chains. The contract man turns gray, like a spreadsheet trying not to faint. Security shifts, unhappy. The drones above us blink the faceless blink of things that will film whatever they are told to call truth. The curator runs her tongue once along the inside of her teeth, as if tasting whether any are loose. Bold, she says. Expensive. Correct, I say. She glances at the viewing lounge. Maya stares back, fierce as a tiny king. The curator loves leverage too much to pretend she doesn't, but she also loves winning in public. The calculus rearranges itself behind her eyes, beads sliding on a wire. She lifts 2 fingers. The lounge door sighs open. Maya steps out, slow, careful, as if forward motion might be taxed. 2 guards flank her at legal distances. She skips the last foot and becomes velocity. She collides with Nate so hard he oofs shamefully into the microphone of history. His hands find her and commit. He laughs once, a raw, cut sound. And I watch him decide to keep breathing for 30 more years, just so this can keep happening. I do not reach. I am learning how to be a person who asks permission to hold joy that doesn't belong to her. Maya's head swivels. She looks at me like a soldier verifying line of sight on a friend. "You okay?" she asks, businesslike. "I am learning," I say. "Good," she nods, then glares at the curator across 4 meters and a history lesson. "Don't touch my stuff." The curator almost smiles for real this time. It's not kind, but it's true. "We have a pact," she says to me. "Child departs with guardian." "Now," I say. "Now," she agrees, and the guards step back like tide. "2," she continues, as if negotiating were a dance she can lead with her wrist. "Debt." Agreed. He is no longer interesting to my accountants. "And the 3rd, I remind, as the field timer flickers from 1:30 to 1:29. "Open forum, civilian quorum, alien quorum." She sighs, theatrical, and the microphones want to applaud. "Fine, we love audiences." "You love odds," I say. "I love proof," she corrects, "and my proof will have lights." "Good," I say. "Mine will have hands." I remove my bloody palm from the plinth altogether. The vault slides an apologetic inch back toward closed. The contract man makes a sound like a kettle about to boil dry. "Don't worry," I tell him softly. "We're not closing the door. We're changing who holds the keys." Nate edges us toward the ramp while pretending not to. Maya holds his index finger like a flag. He keeps the projector steady with the other hand. When its wine dips, I feel the floor of the moment tilt. The curator notices too. "You run," she says, silky, "and I reroute patrols. We will not shoot at a child, but we will make the lanes thin and the days long." "We don't run," Nate says, flat. "We leave." "Semantics," she purrs. "Ethics," I return. She inclines her head. The motion is not surrender. It is an agreement to move the game one board over. "Go then, brave ones. Enjoy your clean ledger and your cheap air. We will send the invite for council." "Send it to the ship," I say, "not to the name you keep for me." "What name should I use?" she asks, not hiding that the answer will be ground. She will measure every day. "Kea," I tell her again, and watch her accept that I will keep offering the same stone until her river changes shape. We back up the ramp. The field dies at 0:12, and then, like a forgiving God, forgets to collapse for 2 heartbeats longer. Security blinks at the absence of a wall and remembers bravery just after it would have mattered. No one fires. The cameras would catch the spelling error. The ramp thunks closed. The Junebug wraps us in her cheap, honest air. Systems ping. Lights cough alive. The ship feels like a dog we just told she's good, and she believed us. Nate buckles Maya into the crash seat with hands that have fixed sad things for a long time. He double-checks, then triple-checks. She complains with professional dignity. "I know how to strap, Dad." "Strap twice," he says. "We're going to make someone mad." I drop into the co-pilot's chair because if I lie down now, I might sleep forever. I wipe my palms on a rag that used to be a shirt, and will be again if we live. The collar is a quiet ring on the console. It looks smaller already. "Depart," the dock authority drones, cheerful and blind, because bureaucracy is a hydra that only notices when you cut the wrong head. "Lane Epsilon." "Override," the curator's voice cuts in, which is a favor. She will be blamed for this next part. Junebug cleared on C-Black, private corridor. No toll. Nate swivels, suspicion and need dueling like brothers. "What trap is that?" "A promise," she says. "If you mean what you called ethics, you'll come to council. If you don't, you'll need the head start." He studies the speaker as if it were a person he could tire out with silence. "We'll see you," he says. It sounds like both a threat and an invitation to be better. The Junebug slides free. Thrusters whisper. The hangar falls away like a bad idea. Out there, The corridor labeled C Black is a tunnel of quiet, the kind auditors never get to take. We slip into it. The ship straightens her shoulders and tries to hum at a pitch that says, "I belong here." I look at my hands and don't recognize them without a collar's red light to measure them against. I flex. They belong to a person who cut herself open on purpose and lived. I expect pride. What I feel is emptier and fuller than that. Maya twists in her harness enough to see me sideways. Does it hurt? Yes, I say, because she asked, and because lies rot fast in small cabins. Good, she decides. Then you're not a robot. I choke on a laugh I did not know my ribs could hold. Not today. We float for 3 quiet minutes. The planet turns, far and blue-black, pretending its chains are jewelry. I feel the echo of the collar like an ache around a healed tooth. Under it, something else stirs. The storage I tasted, the key I refused to be. Just because I broke the leash doesn't mean I removed the payload. It's in the ring. It's in my blood. It might be in the quiet now, waiting. Nate, I say. He hears the torn edge in the syllable. What did we bring aboard? I pick up the collar. I turn it. Slow, like a dangerous seed. 8th discovery, I say, to the ship and to the small god of timing. The key isn't just voice print. It's a map. Of what? He asks. Of who? I answer. And the ring warms in my palm, as if anyone ever needed more proof than that. The console pings. A new window wants my eyes. A tiny icon blossoms, a spiral of dots, arranging into a familiar glyph, not of rank, but of kin. The curator kept a secret even from herself. My cohort. The other commanders. Their locations as remembered by whatever the collar drank from me night after night, while I slept in cages, called beds. Bright points flare across the sector. Some move, some don't. Some are crossed out in a shade of gray that has a funeral in it. Maya inhales. Are those stars? No, I say. They're people. Nate's knuckles go white on the lever that has never obeyed a manual. Alive? Some, I say, and my voice is a room with 19 doors that all open on different weather. His jaw sets. He glances at the corridor ahead, clean as a lie, then at the map, messy as truth. Council can wait, he says, and the man who never asks for permission asks me anyway, with the tilt of his head. I was taught to route traffic for empires. I was taught to put ships where plans needed them. I was taught to be the world's polite fist. I look at the points that are still bright. I look at the points gone to ash. I look at the small, wobbling dot tied to our transponder, and the smaller dot that is Maya's breath fogging the cabin air. Plot us to the closest one, I say. Council will scream, he warns, not as a deterrent but as a courtesy. Let them, I answer. They have microphones. We have a projector, a ship with opinions, and a child who collects mornings. Maya beams, ferocious and relieved, like someone older just told her the sky can be folded into pockets if you practice. Are we saving people? She asks. We're trying, I say. She nods like a supervisor. Good. Dad's good at that. Nate grins without teeth. The Junebug shivers as he throws her onto a vector that smells like trouble and rain. A siren somewhere far behind us begins to complain about lane assignments. The private corridor collapses like a lie told to the wrong audience. Fine. We pick our own sky. Send the council our terms, I tell the console. Add a 9th. No more auctions. Make it 10, Nate says, eyes on the stars. No more collars. Make it 11, Maya pipes, tiny and vast. No more taking kids. Done, I say, and the ship transmits 3 demands that sound like a planet remembering how to speak. I lean back. I let pain be information instead of a god. The collar ring is cold now. I place it in a drawer that used to hold fuses and prayers. Status versus humanity, I whisper. because I need to say it in a voice that knows both. Let's redefine the math. The Junebug answers with a hum that means yes if you listen with the right bones. We angle toward a light that looks like a life and promise ourselves foolish, expensive things. I was trained to sign doors open. Today, I'll learn how to open them without asking permission from the hands that built the locks. The first beacon is not a star and not a ship. It's a sound, a ping that tastes like nickel and rain, repeating every 9 seconds. Old military cadence, softened by time and hunger. The map on the console resolves from rumor into coordinates. A med barge, Model 40, registry erased, drifting in the slow lane between nothing and nowhere. I know the silhouette without knowing how. Ribbed hull, a chapel of antennae, a belly window meant to reassure patients that the universe is still there. Alive? Nate asks. Maybe, I say. Or the kind of dead that still answers to its own name. Maya leans forward until her harness taps the warning chime. Is it one of yours? One of mine, I repeat, and the words feel like a cut I owe and a debt I'll pay. Yes. We nose up to the barge, the way you approach a sleeping dog with a thorn in its paw. Junebug's floodlights find a hull number half sanded off, and 3 small flowers someone once painted beside it, each with a date. Loss keeps calendars better than governments. We're latched, Nate says. His voice moves gentle on purpose, like rain on new seeds. He teaches the ship to wait and the door to behave. He looks at me, then at the collar ring in the drawer I told him to lock. You sure? No, I say. He nods, satisfied with honesty. He hands me a suit, not corporate black. A pale gray patched in 6 places, each repair signed with a stitch and thread that doesn't match. I pull it on and remember how to be slower than my instincts, because suits punish speed with leaks. At the airlock, Maya's palm hits my hip like a bird asking to be carried. I'm going, she starts. You're staying, Nate and I say together. Her mouth firms. She hates walls. So do I. I crouch, suit hissing like an irritated cat. You guard the maps, I tell her. If the dots change, you scream, loud. I can do loud, she declares, almost mollified. Then softer. Bring back your friend. Friend is generous. Cohort is true. But when a child upgrades your nouns, it's rude to downgrade them. We cross. The barge air tastes like iodine and prayers. Emergency lights wash everything the color of old cherries. The corridor floors carry scuffs low to the ground, skids and small circles, gurneys waltzing in bad weather. Someone has written a joke on the bulkhead in marker and half wiped it away. The punchline survives. We still bill. Power share mode, Nate says, running his palm along the panel like a sleepy horse. She's starving smart, choosing which lights to love. The ping repeats. 9 seconds, 9 seconds, grief on a metronome. I know where to go the way your hand knows your own pocket. Ride the central spine. Left at the wide door with the scrape. Down into the core where the engines hum like a sermon you didn't agree to, but learned anyway. We find her in recovery too, inside a cradle bed with the lid half crooked. The room looks like a chapel, and a mechanic's bay had an argument and stayed married for the children. Vines of tubing hang politely. The monitors are dark, by choice, not death. She is blue like me. Her hair is cut to regulation severity, which means someone has kept hope recent. Her eyes are open, dry, as if blinking would be the luxury that wastes air. Kia, she says, and then, Commander. The second word is an old reflex. She swallows it like a mistake. You took off your leash. Lysa, I say. The name arrives in my mouth with history I didn't ask permission to want. Cohort designation fast with calculus, slow with trust. Once laughed at a comet because it looked like a fishhook. I did. She tries to sit. The cradle doesn't agree. A gentle armature presses her shoulder. Stay. Her mouth crooks at the corner. Ship thinks I'm a plant. She's right, Nate says, checking lines the way you check a child's coloring. Not for mistakes, for health. You rooted in? Lisa studies him like a weapon and a question. He passes both tests by not caring. Energy failure, she says to me. They parked us, locked protocols, stripped medtech, left the beds, claimed quarantine. Real story. We wouldn't sign the thing. The treaty, I say. The leash, she corrects softly. The ping again. I find its source. A button taped to the bed frame under the rail at child height. Her hand moves that way between sentences. Small, invisible, relentless. Not calling rescue. Calling witness. 9 seconds. 9 seconds. A heartbeat she won't let go quiet. We have 7 minutes, Lisa says. Maybe less. After the ping crossed the wrong ear, 2 tugs lit up. Not corporate tugs. Someone friendlier with the curator. They'll arrive with contracts and stun rounds labeled Mercy. Junebug's calm clicks, polite. Maya's voice breaks in, a small thunder. Dots moving, she reports. 2. Fastish, like birds that know where the bread is. Copy, Nate says, and turns to me. He doesn't ask if we stay or run. He waits for the shape of the decision to fit my hand. I free Lisa's cradle restraints. They don't fight much. They were built by people who believed patients don't need to be saved from themselves. The bed hisses when I override its plan to keep her docile. She swings her legs out. Her balance tries to arrest her for dereliction. She ignores it. Who's the child? She asks, dry. Authority, I say, and she nods once like the joke is good enough to reuse. Back in the corridor, the med barge gives us a present. A maintenance drone that wants to help. It's the size of a stubborn cat and has a marker clipped to its frame. Someone wrote on the marker in tape, Doctor. I tap its camera. Guardian override, I tell it, and point at Lisa. Follow, block, film. It does, delighted, beeping because it can. We cross 3 blank rooms and a chapel where someone left pampered lilies that decided to be wild again. Lisa's hand brushes a pedal. Her mouth remembers wonder like an old language. At a junction, I stop. The ship hums a question. Junebug's voice comes in from my comm, Nate's voice behind hers. 2 minutes on the friendlies. One's calling itself Mediaid. Other says Tug of Grace, which is a bad joke with a nice shirt. Gates? I ask. Closed behind them, he says. The corridor wants this to be private. Of course it does, I say, and taste velvet over blades. We hurry. Lisa's breath stays even. She was built for thin air, long plans, split-second mercy. We pass an office where a plant in a chipped mug drinks light from a crack and believes. Kia, she says. Yes. You're running a map. Yes. Am I on it? You were ash, I say. Now you're bright. Good, she says. I am tired of being a eulogy. We reach Dock 2. The bay door's manual wheel is engaged, which means someone hoped for hands. Lisa and I brace. Nate takes the far handle. On 3, we turn. The wheel protests, then decides loyalty is lubrication and moves. The door rises on a hangar mouth full of red lights and promises. 2 shapes nose in from the dark, painted pretty to reassure accountants. Mediaid, a smile on its skin. Tug of Grace, a cross that wants you to think charity can tow you to shore without sending a bill later. Junebug, a new voice sings across our channel, a tenor that practices forgiveness in the mirror. Stand down. Barge is under quarantine and corporate custodial care. We'll take the patient. We'll take the tech. You take a voucher and a pat on the head, Maya hisses. Rude. I step into the light. K-unit to Grace, I say, letting the old thunder ride my vowels. Stand down. Barge is under witness and blood. Silence. Then a chuckle. K-Unit, the voice coos. Asset walking. How quaint. Did you take off your jewelry? Gifts itch, I say. We have orders signed by the curator herself, he purrs. Clause 1, Clause 82, Clause be a good girl. You know how this goes. Clause audit, I say. Public request. Laughter, honest this time. No cameras here, darling. Doctor, I tell the drone. Broadcast. The little machine swivels like a priest finding a pulpit. Its beam spikes. The feed goes live to Junebug, and from Junebug to whatever corners of the sector still snack on scandal to feel awake. The tug of grace dims her smile by 1 lumen. Fine, the voice says, polite again. Let's not bruise the narrative. Transfer the patient, and we won't bring up the indenture outstanding on Mr. Harper's vessel. Nate's jaw tightens. We just had that ledger washed, he says. Try a new threat. Old accounts linger, the voice answers, bored. Systems forget slower than sinners. New discovery, Lisa murmurs. They mean to legalize kindness as property. Already did, I say. We're here to repossess it. The tugs drift closer, confidence in their thrust. I see their weapon nests track lazily like cat eyes, not pointed at us, at the barge. A ship is easiest to control when it thinks it's sick. Nate, I say. Projector's hot, he says. 2 minutes of wall if we need it. Save it, I tell him. I want something they can't translate into fear. What's that? Lisa asks. Embarrassment, I say, and step fully into the docking light. I peel my suit glove back and show the camera the red line the collar left. I don't make it pretty. I hold the shot long enough for someone in an office to insult a screen. This is Commander Kia, I say, because sometimes you make a counterfeit of the rank to pay a debt the rank incurred. I am asserting custody of patient 7M under the doctrine of kin liability and sovereign recovery. I point at the Grace Tug's camera. You are asserting kidnapping under the doctrine of nicer words. You're trespassing, the tenor says. Less sweet now. On a hospital, I answer. Whose air are you billing? The doctor drone pans to the lilies. It lingers. The world loves a flower in a bad room. Light them, the tenor snarls to someone off mic. The tug spotlights bloom, vulgar, trying to bleach us into compliance. Lisa flinches. The lilies don't. Junebug speaks in my ear. Maya whispers under her breath, counting. 3 birds now, she says. A little one. No paint. Angry. Hunter, Nate says. The little one arrives like a rumor you wish wasn't true. Sleek, no logos, a hull that eats light and compliments. It parks where the cameras can only guess its edges. Its channel opens without asking. Kia, the curator says, not bothering with sweetness. You are developing a taste for spectacle. You sent wolves to a clinic, I say. I sent accountants to a ledger, she says. One of them brought teeth. I don't hire well when hurried. You can call them off, I say. I can, she agrees. And then to the hunters. Hold shot. The order saves a life we haven't lost yet. She wants a different ending. She's letting me write the beginning. Here are your terms, she says. Transfer the patient to Mediaid for registered treatment. You accompany as witness. Harper continues escort in a lawful lane. The little camera switches off. We pretend this is boring. And if I refuse, I ask. Then the hunters make a mistake they'll be forced to apologize for, she says softly. And the apology will be written on a plaque beneath a flower. Lisa's hand finds the edge of the doorway. She's calculating angles that would hurt her and choosing them anyway. If you go with them, she murmurs, I'll become the pen again. Through me. Through you. I know, I say. Nate says nothing. He holds the projector like a lifeline he would gladly throw into a fire if a child asked him to. His other hand is on the wheel that opens and closes doors. He will do what I decide. Then he will pay for it. That is his grammar of love. Curator, I say, careful, because this part matters. Why do you need us at all? If the treaty is merely a story of a person, tell it without us. Silence, and in the silence, a truth swallowing its pride. Because we tried, she admits, low enough that only the machines will remember. Because laws can smell fear. 10th discovery, Lysa says, eyes bright despite pain. Their signatures fail if nobody in the room believes. Everyone believes in you, the curator says, steel returning. As an object, as a threat, as a tool that makes peace less expensive. I can be cheaper, I say, and give the Dr. Drone a nod. We go live across 4 more feeds. The lilies glow like small, stubborn suns. All right, I tell the world. Lesson. I step aside so the camera can see Lisa, her face bare of apology. I reach back and pull the maintenance drone closer, so the sound catches the hum of a tired ship, keeping 1,000 futures barely alive. I angle my body to show the doorway and the hunter's shadow. Status, I say to the camera, is a story you write so that your fear can sleep. Humanity is what you do when someone wakes you. Then, to the curator, we will escort the patient, but not to you, to the open forum you promised. Treaties are signed in witness, not in rooms where flowers are props. Refused, she says, automatic. Broadcast says accepted, I counter, because refusal sounds different when it has to pass through people. In the feed sidebars, comments flicker like flares. Dock hands, nurses, farmers, a janitor with sunburnt hands who writes, "Bring them home." The hunter twitches its nose guns. Maya, I say gently. Now. Her voice cuts in, tiny and tremendous. Clause audit request, she says, high and clear. Dependent of record. Broadcasting. No more knives. The hunter pauses, confused by a voice its manuals do not index. The Mediaid tug hesitates. The Grace tug powers down its lights by 1 lumen, then 1 more, like shame learning to walk. The curator breathes out. I hear the shape of a choice made by a person who hates not being God. Stand down, she says, annoyed. Escort to council. Keep cameras. Thank you, I say. Don't, she snaps. I'm not done making you wish for cages. Neither am I say softly and help Lisa cross. We bring her through recovery, past the lilies, and the joke and the mug. We bring her along the ribcage, where a small window shows a planet turning and a child somewhere practicing breathing. We bring her to the June bug, who opens like a house learning to welcome guests. Maya is waiting in the door. She has a blanket and a look that could duct tape a broken sky. Hi, she tells Lisa. I'm your niece until further notice. Lysa laughs, then cries once, efficiently. Accepted. We strap her in. Nate peels back a patch and finds a vein that forgives him. The projector sleeps. The hunter watches. The tugs sulk. The lilies keep being lilies. Next? Nate asks. The next bright dot, I say. And then the next. Council, he prompts. They can follow, I say. We'll sign something when we're done rescuing the pens they want to steal. The June bug detaches. The barge grows small and brave behind us. The feed keeps rolling. The planet keeps turning. In the drawer, the collar stays dark and colder than space. I look at Lysa. She looks at me. Old command ghosts watch us and decide to be quiet. I used to think control was a kind of love, she says, voice rough with unlearning. It is, I say. But for cages. She nods. You gonna break all of them? Not today, I say, and touch Maya's hair like a prayer I finally want to say. Today we open doors and make it look expensive.